Very, very stressful to watch, even recording this 2 hours after the game. 2-2 at the end of the day. You look at it from in terms of the draw and getting through the group. By the time this goes out, maybe West Ham have qualified to the knockout stages. But just in terms of the game, and it says it all in the title, it really was a game of two halves. You know, the West Ham I saw in that first half is the poorest I've seen. I don't really know how to break it down, if I'm honest with you. I can see what Moyes was trying to do. You play with a slightly higher press. Genk are going to play out from the back. You get those turnovers, and you're going to create your own opportunities, essentially, with numbers in their final third. The reason why that didn't work is because they're very good in possession. The centre backs are very wide. They're very composed, and the fact that their strikers dropping into deep line midfield roles, their midfielders are dropping deep. There's always options available for them to beat the press, and because West Ham's front four, and I talk about it as a front four because for me, the position of Nobes, particularly in the first 5-10 minutes, he's the aggressor in that midfield. The space in behind was what Genk exploited. That's where the first goal comes from me. I think people might talk about the defensive line and definitely the individual in terms of that goal and how it was created. But West Ham, the gap between the front players in pressing and the defence was too much. And Genk were always going to benefit from it. In terms of the goal, again, it comes from a very, very similar situation. It's down our left-hand side where I feel that Genk had a lot of joy. I'll talk about Masuaku's role in terms of the press in a minute. But just in terms of that ball in behind Diop has checked the man. He's checked the run from Pencil. This is why I'm disappointed. I don't want to dig Diop out too much. I've given him a lot of praise so far this season, and quite rightly so. But call a spade and look at the situation. He's seen the man run across him. His body's between the ball and the man. He can make that decision. He's got the leverage. He's got the frame to get across and cut that ball out. And he's done it a lot of times in these competitions so far. He's hesitated. It's so poor. He's panicked. And in terms of Areola dealing with that, the space that he's got to cover because Diop has been unable to cut that out, it gives him very little time to react, very little time to set himself as well, and they score. Now, in terms of how West Ham respond, I just feel that even in possession, in terms of keeping the ball and for West Ham to be able to build up play in the final third, it wasn't even good enough for us to commit that overload. And that's something I haven't really seen from West Ham. Mano Lanzini was losing the ball frequently. Masuaku definitely was. Mark Noble was losing the ball on a consistent basis. And again, when you vacate that amount of space in the midfield and you're losing it all the time, you're just constantly playing a game of counter-attacks. And Genk was so good, and credit to them in terms of getting players forward, the movement in beyond. And they had a lot of chances to score. And fair play, Areola, the header from a corner. It's shocking why he's got so much space, why that's a free header. And I guess it really came from the injury to Ito down the right-hand side. I think Moyes obviously spoke to them. We had to change. We absolutely had to. It went back to a 4-4-2 out of possession. Masuaku was sitting slightly deeper in wider areas. So was Manu Lanzini. And it meant that Genk, it wasn't as easy for Genk to play through the press. It clearly wasn't effective. The only problem was they had so much of the ball. It did feel like, at what point are West Ham going to be able to get into this game, get a foothold and create? Now, up until that point, it very much been from individual moments in Benrahma and Antonio. And that was disappointing for me because West Ham this season, in terms of build-up in the final third, we've pushed the fullbacks further forward, the attacking midfielders, the interchange of those positions. It wasn't there. It really, really wasn't there. And it was only really Benrahma getting in beyond making the perfect movement that he needs to make as a 10 that made it competitive. People will say we had chances. I look at it more down to individual moments. Now, the second half, much better. The shape was much better. The control of the game, the decision of Diop and Dawson as to when to press, particularly when West Ham lost the ball in Genk's final third. That's really important for West Ham to be able to keep the pressure on. I thought in terms of us playing through the lines and being more coherent, Manu Lanzini was much better. I think we were much braver as well. And I think a lot of that comes down to shape, being in that 4-4-2 shape out of possession. We weren't going to press as the midfielders high. We could regain the ball and then we could create from that point on. And I think in this game, it highlighted Benrahma's qualities. And I thought Benrahma, to be honest, was absolutely outstanding. That's the best performance I've seen from him in a West Ham shirt. Gutted he didn't win the game because with a performance like that, he really should have done. But everything in terms of the movement off the ball, dropping into deeper pockets, and again, carrying the ball and beating players, his feet as well in the final third in terms of creating. And we were the better side, but Benrahma was a huge part of that. And just the coherency of the passing, playing through the lines, him on the ball in terms of creating the chances. The goal's fantastic, by the way, in terms of Soufal. And probably the first time in that game I'd seen Soufal make that run, because West Ham weren't making that overload frequently enough. Benny, it's a wonderful finish. And then, of course, the game goes on. We begin to dominate the ball a little bit more. We look comfortable. And then, of course, you get to Benrahma's second goal, which is unbelievable. It's outstanding. It's outstanding what he's doing, how he reads the player, how he basically asks that defender, come and press me, sees the space in behind. I suppose that is Benrahma's game in terms of exploiting spaces, knowing how to get in there and being able to transition. And I just thought his end product, his movement off the ball, his carrying of the ball, his passing, his feet, they were all spot on. So that's as good as Benny performance as you will see. In terms of Soucek, I'm not going to dig him out. I literally, as a West Ham fan, there is nothing worse than digging out someone like Tomas Soucek, who's been, let's be honest, in the past 3 games, I think his performances have improved massively. It's one of them. It's one of them. It shouldn't happen. It's annoying that it's happened. And it gave Genk maybe the impetus, particularly in those last few minutes, to get on the ball, again, create overloads in wide areas, West Ham to deal with. We definitely could have dealt with it better anyway down that left-hand side. A lot of the times we can talk about individual moments, but I always think generally as a team, we have to be able to deal with that. And individually tonight, there were a few poor performances. I mentioned Arthur Masuaku in the first half. Him not pressing and engaging was allowing Genk to play that ball in behind, and they were happy to play that ball in behind Diop, in behind Dawson. That's where I could see why Fornals came on later in the game, because it wasn't good enough and it had to improve. And even then, Fornals didn't have a poor game. He had a poor moment for that, and that's what led to their second goal. But at the end of the day, in terms of the second half performance, that is West Ham. We could have won it in the end. The chances created, the ball from Bowen, phenomenal. The build-up and the composure, the movement was much better because West Ham were able to control the play in their final third, which is something that we just couldn't do individually or tactically in the first half. So whilst I am frustrated in a way that we didn't win, that Benrahma couldn't cap it off and say, listen, we've qualified from the group, we're basically group winners now. There's a resilience about this side, of course there is, and Moyes changed it. Fair play to him. He was brave in that. Frustrating that obviously Declan's played a lot longer than we wanted to. Antonio played 60 minutes. Cress's played a lot longer as well. We've had to rely on a lot of first teamers tonight that may have not got the result that we wanted. But again, I'm just happy that the team got the point that we're still unbeaten in Europe and we move. But we have to look at these things we've got to give perspective to these things. We can't just say, it's all bad or it's all good. And for me, you saw the best of West Ham really in the second half and the worst of West Ham in the first half. And when it's all off, it's all off. But when it's on, West Ham are a very, very good team. So I look forward to Sunday. There's a lot to talk about, of course, with Liverpool. We'll talk about team selection in the preview. I'm going on Grizz's channel as well, so check that out in terms of an opposition preview. We'll chew the fat on that because I think Liverpool are looking at us and thinking they could cause us some slight issues. And let's hope we can get over this European form that we have. I know we beat Spurs last time out, but it's a massive test. So I look forward to that anyway. Take care, guys. We're still all right. We're still doing good. We're still unbeaten. And I'll chat soon.